Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yuri Folari. Okay, we're still talking about development. It's what we always talk about. Let's look at youth development and the part that what their responsibility is and the part that they are and possibly can still play. Our guest this morning is Engineer Ibrahim Adigun Olalekon, or let me put it, he's Engineer, if I were to just take two names, Engineer Ibrahim Adigun.
Thank you, Mr. Harry.
Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for coming on. He's chairman of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Lagos State Chapter. And just by way of explaining it further, this is the council was established in 1964, and it is charged with responsibility of policy formulation and implementation on issues relating to youth development in the country.
Yes, sir.
It is the umbrella body and indeed the mouthpiece for youths in Nigeria. Its supervisory body is the Ministry of Youth and Socials.
Yes, social development, absolutely.
Youth and social development. So you're very welcome,
Thank you, sir.
Chairman. In fact, you're hot, smoking hot, in the sense that you were elected last week.
Yes, sir.
To continue the work that has been going on. Now, you know, as I was saying, it was established in 1964.
Yes, sir.
And is charged with responsibility of policy formulation. Can you give me, how has it been doing in the past? Because not too many people will say that they actually have been aware of the presence of this body and then perhaps indeed the impact. Would you agree, or do you see it differently?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me this morning, Mr.
Very
Harry.
welcome.
I really appreciate. And first of all, the National Youth Council, as you've said, was founded in 1964. And the founding fathers of the National Youth Council, in their capacity, have coined the Youth Council activities to be the umbrella body and the statutory mouthpiece for youth and youth organs at all tiers of government as far as Nigeria is concerned. You also have Youth Council in other parts of the country. You have Youth Council in Singapore, in other parts of the world. But in Nigeria, talking about Nigeria, we have Youth Council structure spread from the national level to the local level. In fact, the Youth Council constitution that we have now has opportunities for us to have structure at the world level. Okay. So, but as we speak, we don't have any Youth Council structure that is existing at the world level because the provision of the constitution has just been broadened to accommodate for world level. So, at the national level, we have a national president. We also have, at the zonal level, we have zonal officers, the vice president at the zonal level. At the state level, we now have a state chairman. So I am the state chairman of the National Youth Council of Nigeria in Lagos State. And in Lagos State, for example, we also have local branches. Then we have voluntary youth organizations. So the Youth Council is composed of, at the state level, we have local branches and we have affiliated voluntary youth organizations. So those voluntary youth organizations, the components of the voluntary youth organizations are the community-based organizations. We call them the CBOs. We have the faith-based organizations like the Christian and Muslim bodies, Sion, Catholic youth organizations. We have Muslim students organization, Muslim Society of Nigeria, and so on and so forth. Then we have uniform-based organizations like the Scouts, the Girl Guide. We have the Boys Brigade. We have the YMCA. We have the Manual. All of these uniform-based organizations are also members of the National Youth Council of Nigeria. We also have voluntary organizations like, you can say they are called the NGOs that are affiliated with us, that have specific roles that they play within the scope. Like, for example, we have Young Farmers Association of Nigeria, Lagos State Chapter. So they are affiliated members of the National Youth Organization. And the national, it will interest you to know that because of our area of focus, the National Youth Council is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that they engage and empower young people in their own capacity to support the government's intervention. In Lagos, for example, our focus in our own administration and in the past is to ensure that we also optimize our support for the Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu's Teams Plus agenda, which involves young people and gender equity.
And that's because you are of the Lagos State chapter.
Yes, sir.
Every state has its own chapter.
Yes, sir.
And in this way, everybody sort of works up to, the national body.
Yes, sir.
And ultimately, the supervision of the Ministry of Youth
and Social Development.
Now, formulating policy and seeing to its implementation, have there been any landmarks? Because I'm afraid, at least let me admit my own, shortcoming. I haven't heard very much in terms of initiatives and in this regard. And so maybe you can excuse that and sort of educate us on what indeed have been some milestones in terms of policy development. Thank
you so much. As I was saying at the time, the Youth Council organizes a lot of youth engagement activities. So we campaigned on a mantra of P3 agenda, which publicity is focused on that.
P3?
So P3 agenda.
Okay.
P, professionalism, productivity, and publicity.
Okay, when you say we campaigned, I was explaining that you've just been elected.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this was your campaign?
Yes, this was my campaign. So, and one of the things I want to do is, the Youth Council have been organizing events in the past, I've been organizing different policies, I've been initiating different projects, but some of those projects are not known to the common man on the streets. So one of the things I want to do is for the young people on the streets of Lagos, the common man, to understand and to see the activities. They should see it everywhere, on the streets and everywhere. So, for example, in the past administration, a lot of capacity development programs were held in the past. But of course, those programs were not put on the media for people to see. So, but for us, before, imagine as a council chairman in Lagos State, we have engaged in a lot of series of activities, which if you go to the social media now and just type National Youth Council of Nigeria, Odilo Oju, a local branch, where I was coming from, you see series of activities. One of the activities is a community engagement.
Is a Mushi.
Is a Mushi, yes, sir. So one of the activity is a breakfast session. So, and that breakfast session, we also intend to reciprocate it at the state level. So, unlike what we used to know about the breakfast session, where you just see young people sit down, take buffet in the hall and just have nice time, and just talk and chat. So our idea of a breakfast session is to bring together young people on the streets. So what we did at our level was to take it to the streets. So we held the program on the streets of Lagos, on the streets where you have people passing by. And one of the testimonies that we've got from that is we've been able to use that program to rehabilitate a lot of young people. Take, for example, there was a particular day when we were talking and discussing about the menace of substance abuse. And we collaborated with the NDLEA Lagos State Command. And that program, we had a lot of NDLEA officials coming on the street, engaging people. Mushi, a lot of people say Mushi is big on, substance abuse. So from Mushi, we took it upon ourselves to ensure that we do a lot of advocacy on that part. In fact, it's interesting to know, it was done under the bridge. The program was done under the bridge, and we have over 500 young people.
Under the bridge? Which bridge?
Around Ogumokun.
Oh, okay.
Ogumokun Olateju, the new bridge that is under construction. Okay. We held the program there, and we have a lot of officers. In fact, we gave out sewing machine, because one of the people we rehabilitated on that day has issue with, probably he knows how to, he has this skill of sewing, and there is nothing for him to support him with. So we gave out a sewing machine, courtesy one of our public office holder in Mushin. So we intend to reciprocate some of these activities on the street of Lagos. So when a lot of young people, it is not only on election period that you see people come together, young people come together. So we believe that when we organize events like this, programs like this, it will touch the lives of common people. Another program that has always been done in the past that we also want to implement at the state level is capacity development program in terms of, upscaling our members and upscaling young people within our society.
Okay.
And we are okay.
Upscaling, because you said that, look, in your tenure, professionalism is one of the 3 P's that you would be highlighting. Because that suggests to me that even, look, youth is is a very important segment, and it's quite a wide segment. But professionals, young professionals, you no doubt will want to see them also engaging, or you engaging with them. How does it go in that regard? Because, as you know, the modern world is largely, led by the youths.
Yes, sir.
The new world, let me just put it like that way. The new world is largely led by the youth. How does that work out? Young professionals in IT, in the new world, you understand?
Yes, sir.
Are you getting the correct kind of interaction with them?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Like I said the other time, the Youth Council, we have a very rich membership. So we have, for you to be part of the Youth Council, you don't need to be a certified professor or certified engineer alone. So in the Youth Council, we have medical doctors, we have lawyers, we have accountants. In fact, our treasurer is an accountant. Our legal officer is also a legal practitioner.
Okay.
So we have all of these people as part of the Youth Council. They are members of the. So we harness our strengths to build on the activities and programs that we do.
There must be a lot of work that will interest a council such as yours, the Council of the National Council of Youth of Nigeria. And, the youths right now on the continent of Africa, take Kenya, for example. They started something. I think they're coming out of it now. They might still be in the middle of it. Let me talk about what is going on in Nigeria as well. We haven't seen anything formal, but perhaps you have also seen that the youth social media is being put to in regard of, and it's not for the first time, but you see all sorts of postings suggesting that the youth are about to be more restive. You see people, they are youths, these people are youths, and there are those who are saying, hang on, is this not how NSAS began? I don't know if you've heard things like that, and what your thoughts would be regarding this. Number one, is it a false alarm? Are these just mischievous people, gathering themselves together and making videos? Give me your overview there in view of the fact that you can't really discountenance what is said to be going on with the youth. Is this making a mountain out of a molehill, or what?
First of all, we need to admit that, of course, the digital age that we have presently, one of the challenges that we have is the lack of control of what happens in the digital space, especially on social media. Yeah. And I believe, of course, the government needs to, buckle down on, controlling what happens in that space. Because in that space, you have a lot of vices happening.
That's right.
And for us as young people in the Youth Council, what we do is that we try as much as possible to, unless we look at the positives in that space, to organize different activities to engage our youth. For example, we organize, digital skill acquisition programs, like how to become a certified digital marketer. So when you have events like that going on the social space and communicating events like that or projects like that to young people in a way they'll be able to resonate, that will resonate with them, with their mindset, I think it will go a long way. Other things is, publicizing and projecting different content in terms of some of the things that will affect the mental, capacity, that will uplift the mental capacity of young people.
Because so much so, really what you're saying, in line with what you're saying, these posters are usually anonymous people, not anybody you can grab hold of. However, the way people share things locally. So there's a matter of, I think you have your work cut out for you. There are those who perhaps are not necessarily the most patriotic and are taking hold of their right to speech, to expression, and are putting things on the place. I remember back in February, the police had reason to warn certain people to be very careful with what they were using their freedom to post, because they can't put themselves in a position of causing panic within the society. How do you think this can also be addressed? The fact that youth, maybe they aren't even youth, we don't know, but there's a lot of stuff, especially in recent times, trying to bring on the Kenyan example is what I would think is the ulterior motive behind any of that. But do you think it is a serious enough matter to address the concern, to attract the concern of the National Youth Council of Nigeria?
Of course.
Because it is youth that we see in this video.
Yes, of course.
They are all carrying posters, protesting economic hardships. And when you listen to the language, because you begin to wonder, hang on, what's going on here? Is this really something that evolved, or is this some sort of a setup?
So most of the things that we see on social media are stage managed, though we have a lot of them that happen organically.
Yes.
But varieties, a lot of it are stage managed. And of course, as I said initially, the government have to do a lot in controlling what happens on the social media. And part of what we are going to be pushing is we are going to be pushing for advocacy on the government to manage the contents that are on social media. I know a lot of people will come at us that, why are you doing this? Are you not young people? Fine, there are a lot of opportunities that are inherent on the social media that you can find on the social media. But of course, a lot of those alarms affect the mindset of young people, create panic within the society, and of course, create falsehood, and also reduce our patriotism as a people within the country. So as a youth, as a National Youth Council, what we do basically is to ensure that we continue to conscientize our people and to conscientize Lagosians and Nigerians on the need for them to be patriotic and to believe in the country Nigeria. Indeed. And of course, some of the opportunities that are inherent in the system of the Nigerian state.
This is not to say that there are not any difficulties. In fact, everybody knows that there are indeed difficulties.
So,
even the presidency itself, the president has said on more than one occasion that he understands the trauma that Nigerians are going through. Sure. So this is not as if to say, no, don't say anything like, no, that's not. But you see, the way things are being drummed up, if we're not careful, as I said, in February, the police had cause to warn people to be careful in expressing their rights, not put out, right now, for instance, depending on how your social media is fixed, if you're going to be receiving, you might be receiving things like, we had better stock up. We had better stock up on essentials, because something is likely going to happen. Now, these are not helpful at all, especially if they are not true. If these are stage managed and, it's all about perception.
Of course.
And, reality is a different thing, but you push it, people begin to, and people don't even think it out. Once they see it on social media, they'll share it willy-nilly. They might not even believe it, but they'll share it. Before you know where we are, we have this situation on our hands where the public is being, I don't want to say, is being terrorized.
Of course, misled.
But that is not to say that there are
no challenges.
Challenges. And the youth are feeling these challenges. But whether the youth organically are, evolving into these groupings is another question altogether, because there always is mischief around the corner.
Of course.
So this is the big problem, and I guess the government is caught between a rock and a hard place, because at one time they don't want to interfere in people's freedoms.
Of course.
But at the same time, you can't be making the job more difficult, and there are those who actually would wish on us what happened in Kenya.
Of course, in a lot of countries in the world, most of these social media apps are not allowed. to operate in some of these countries. In fact, it's very big in the Asian part of the world, because they understood the challenges that comes with some of these social media apps, because you can't control who is who. You can't understand and identify someone who is making a post on TikTok, for example. In fact, on Twitter, is so alarming that a lot of young people and a lot of people, in fact, you cannot say young people, a lot of people anonymously create several accounts, and because there is no, protocol checking and controlling, a particular user creating several accounts, you have such accounts overflowing the social media. And I don't want to mention a lot of blogs, but when you see a lot of blogs, they come up with controversial news that creates panic.
And this is what the youth do, unfortunately. And I don't think it's a Nigerian thing particularly. It's around the world, but it is a concern. Maybe will the council, your council, will it be taking that up with law enforcement to see how, because the government has said it is committed to democracy, and it certainly won't be democratic for anybody for them to slam social media and lock it. So, but you see, the youths are those that use social media most.
Exactly.
And so there's a big responsibility there, because whereas there are all sorts of professionals, you said there are doctors, there are lawyers, there are scientists, everybody is in there. And there are also people who are nowhere near those people. You said you actually went in your area, you went on the street to go and engage with these youths.
Yes.
And it's surprising. A person might not be well lettered, but the expertise that this person has got on social media, they just go about it carelessly. And is there any thought that perhaps, first of all, do you have relations with law enforcement?
Of course we do. And for us, we want to dwell more on the positives on the social media. Because if you don't dwell more on the positives, we are going to be carried away with the negativity that happens on the social media. And one of the scope of our task and responsibility as a council is to ensure that we empower our members and the young people. And we believe that empowerment, youth empowerment, cut across different facets of life. We have leadership empowerment, we have financial empowerment, we have emotional empowerment, we have psychological empowerment, we have social empowerment. So all these forms of empowerment and mental empowerment. So we believe that all these forms of empowerment work hand in hand with each other. And we have to harness the digital space to, ensure that we, pass them across to young people on the streets of Lagos. Find a lot of young persons are not also on social media. One of the disadvantages of even going to the social media space is that are going to disenfranchise a lot of young people that are supposed to be there. So what we are doing again is to ensure that we bring a lot of young people into the basket of, being on the digital space. Of course, controlling some of the things that they learn. Now, the Youth Council Constitution, according to the 2018 Constitution, Section 16, subsection 4, Article 3, talks about the National Development, the National Leadership Development Institute. So our administration is focused on ensuring that that institute comes to active life, because the Youth Council Constitution, as we speak, in fact, across all states, across all tiers of government in the Youth Council structure, we don't have any of the structure ensuring that this institute is active or vibrant or come to life. So one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that this institute comes to life, is active, because we have a lot of leaders and we have a lot of critical stakeholders within that space that will help us train young people to become leaders. And one of the things that this institute will do is to train young people within the social media space, within the off-media, social media space, to create leaders that will be well empowered in all of the forms of leadership or empowerment, youth empowerment that I've talked about. And I don't know, because one thing that is very important that a lot of young people used to say when you say empowerment, youth empowerment, is all about financial empowerment. And it is easy for you to give a young person 1 million naira if the person is not well equipped on the financial discipline to spend the money, the financial prudency to manage the money, the mentality to navigate him or herself, how to make fortune with the money, the person will mismanage the funds. So we believe that it's a holistic approach for youth empowerment, and that is what we'll be focusing on. We have been focusing on that in the past at our local level and across board. As I've said, we have 57 local branches. We have 54 voluntary youth organizations, and they organize different activities within the social media space. What we just want to come and do is to amplify what they do. And how we achieve this is to be projecting the activities of all of these people. And believe you me, Mr. Reri, by the end of December, we'll be graduating our first cohort in the Lagos State National Youth Development Institute.
You know, as I said at the top, and you also said it, it was established in 1964.
Yes,
that is the Council of Nigerian, National Youth Council of Nigeria, established back in 1964.
Yes, sir.
So it shows that it's been quite a while since government has recognized the significance of the youths and have sought to give them a voice in a formal sort of way. Talk about what would be your assessment of the political engagement of the youths today? Because any way you slice it, cut it, the youths are in the majority. And this is a power that, just the sheer power of numbers, and it has to be very adroitly managed. What is your assessment, since your council is to be a voice for the youth? What is your assessment as to the quality of political engagement of the youth? Because it is a desirous thing, isn't it, for the youth to be engaged politically? Yes.
Before now, we used to have deficits in youth participation in politics and governance. So over the years, there have been a sequential change and improvement in that. And in Lagos State, for example, we can see a true reflection of that improvement in Lagos State. The Commissioner for Youth and Social Development is a young person. We have about 40% of young persons in government as we speak in Lagos State. At the federal government, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu have also done a lot to bring young persons on board. And it will interest you, you also see it amazing that the Honorable Commissioner for Youth at the federal level is a young lady. The Honorable Commissioner for Youth State Development is also a young man. So we have a lot of young people. For example, you see the Honorable the Honorable Minister in charge of technology is also a young person, and they are doing a lot. So what has happened with this present administration is they have brought forward youth engagement to governance, government patronage, and the country have benefited a lot from it, because our slogan in the Youth Council is build the youths, build the nation. So we believe that if government empowers young people, if the society empowers young people, of course it will lead to the development of that particular nation. And I believe, I'm very optimistic that we'll go from this.
Okay, because I'm going to take a break now, but I want you to expand a bit.